When you collect data, a lot of our customers are coming from either paper-based forms, right? When you think about anything you do when you fill out a paper-based form, whether you're applying for something, we have colleges and universities that use us for everything for applying to be a student to applying for a parking sticker. You know, it runs the gamut, right? Any of those applications that used to be manually, any data collection, if healthcare companies use it for, you know, imagine when you start a new doctor, all those intake forms, right? Instead of filling those all out manually, now you're automating them. And
welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Terri Delfino. She's the CMO at FormAssembly. Terri, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kelsey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Terri, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm the CMO at FormAssembly, as you said. I've been with the company almost 18 months now. And I started in high-tech marketing a very, very long time ago, and kind of fell into it. I was working in finance. I was working in the accounting department, and I found myself at a tech PR and advertising agency. And one day the founders came to me and they said, "You've got a little too much personality for this finance stuff. Is there something else you'd like to try?" And I moved into account service, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's fantastic. So, I'm excited to see more of that personality today. So why don't you tell me a little bit more, about FormAssembly? It sounds like you've had, an interesting journey kind of getting to FormAssembly. Tell me more about FormAssembly.
Well, FormAssembly is we started out as a simple form builder, and over the years we've evolved our product into a data collection platform. And in short, we helped people collect, connect, and protect data digitally. So, we start with a really easy to use form builder. It's super intuitive. You don't have to get, IT involved. You don't have to get developers involved. Anyone can use it and start building forms to collect data digitally. Then we automate processes on the back end internally, things that were usually done manual, such as routing things for review and approval and such. We provide integrations to leading business applications to get the data where you need it, such as Salesforce, Excel, things like that. And then we wrap it all in what we believe is the industry's best bubble of security, privacy, security, and compliance, which means that it's simple to use for small businesses and individuals, but it's also sophisticated and advanced enough for large enterprises and government agencies.
I love that three-prong: collect, connect, and protect. That's a simple way to, remember everything that FormAssembly does. So why don't you break that down a little bit more for me, a little bit more about what FormAssembly does kind of in the solutions, and a little bit more about that.
Well, so as I said, when you collect data, a lot of our customers are coming from either paper-based forms, right? When you think about anything you do when you fill out a paper-based form, whether you're applying for something, we have colleges and universities that use us for everything for applying to be a student to applying for a parking sticker. It runs the gamut, right? Any of those applications that used to be manually any data collection, if healthcare companies use it for, imagine when you start a new doctor, all those intake forms, right? Instead of filling those all out manually, now you're automating them. And then things like small businesses, right? We have a payment connector integration. So you can actually do business, florists, cleaning services, things like that can process payments. So anything that you would create a form for and digitally fill it out, or you used to do it manually and now you want to do it digitally. So that starts with the form builder, and then it's about getting the information where you want it. So a majority of our customers are Salesforce users. And if you've ever used Salesforce, you have a wealth of information and you want to get the data in there, but you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it organized because you're only as good as your data integrity. And then you also want to get that data out. So we do things like pre-fill. So if you're coming to fill out a form and you're a Salesforce user, and and you have a Salesforce integration, your information can already be pre-filled into that. So again, there's no mistakes with manual data entry. Everything stays clean and it works bi-directionally. And the last thing we do is that we have the highest level of privacy, security, and compliance. So more and more organizations have to protect their data, they have to secure it, and they have to meet regulatory and compliance issues, requirements. So if you do things like, GDPR, ISO, HIPAA, SOC 2, all of those requirements, we meet all of those. Plus, we have built-in data protection functionality. When someone's filling out a form, we'll obfuscate that data so people around them can't see it. You can put security requirements and parameters on the data, so only certain people in your organization can see it. You also have audit trails, so you know who accessed data and when they accessed it, and that's really important if you have to maintain compliance and regulatory, whether you're in healthcare, financial services, government, all of that.
Yeah, and you raised a bunch of really good points kind of when you were just talking that I want to dive a little bit deeper into. But like you said, that privacy, and really talking about compliance, I imagine can be very difficult. So navigating all of that to make sure, that you're compliant with all of the different, governing bodies is probably, a challenge, but it's so important for FormAssembly to do for, like you said, those small to medium sized companies.
Yeah, and it's compliance is kind of two-pronged. First of all, there has to be features and functionality in the product that help you be compliant, and compliance is kind of like a supply chain, right? And if you want to be a compliant organization, everybody in your supply chain has to be compliant. So you're only as compliant as the weakest link. So if you work with a form provider or a data collection solution that isn't compliant, you then may not be compliant as an organization. So we as an organization have undergone a lot of regulatory approvals and certifications. We're HIPAA, we're SOC 2, we're GDPR. So if we don't do that, then our customers can't be. So because we are, then our customers are as well.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned one thing too, is talking about, you mentioned kind of the different use cases for FormAssembly, talking about, going anywhere from applying to college to doing, a parking pass at college. So it sounds like, one of those industries that FormAssembly may be used most often in is kind of that higher ed space. Are there any other trends in, industries that you tend to see FormAssembly really working with often?
Sure. And the short version is anybody that either wants to or is collecting data online can use this. But certainly higher ed is been someplace we've been for a long time. We're really strong in healthcare and FinServ and government agencies. Again, any of those organizations that have high compliance requirements, we are a natural fit for them. We also do a lot with nonprofit organizations.
I think that's right. I came from a nonprofit myself before, so I think that's the other thing that I wanted to mention, kind of you brought up, like I said, several really great points, was that integration. It sounds like, the root of FormAssembly is making people's lives easier, working to be able to help simplify and, streamline different processes. So it sounds like the integrations are a huge, crucial part of not only are you collecting, but that part about connecting and then protecting as well.
Yep. Yeah. And there's really two parts to connecting, right? One is integrations. And again, we have, Salesforce is probably our largest. We have over 300 five-star ratings, five-star reviews in the Salesforce App Exchange. So the Salesforce users have spoken and they like us, which is wonderful. But we also have, like I said, payments connectors, which is great for small business. We have things like Excel. We're coming out with SharePoint really soon. We have Google Suite. So it's getting the data where you need it. And that's one part of it. And then the other part is this workflow automation, because once you have the data, again, if you're processing applications, mortgage companies, things like that, anything where there's a back end process, right? You've got this information. Now it needs to be routed for review. You can also do sort of multi-stage approvals. So one of our clients uses it to, one example is they get an application They route that. If the application meets certain criteria, it then automatically kicks off the next step in the workflow. So these things that used to be done manually are now automated. And that not only saves you time and money, it frees your people to do higher value things. One of my favorite use cases or case studies is an organization called Pets for Patriots, and they match shelter animals with veterans, right? And they had one full-time employee and two part-time employees, and they were processing all of their applications manually. So they came to us and they started using FormAssembly to start processing their applications. And they use that, if it meets this criteria with our workflow, they kick off the next step, they send them the full application. So not only did it help automate their systems, it cut their processing time down by 50%. So they were spending 50% less time processing applications, which means they could spend 50% more time helping animals, helping vets. And, who can't feel good about that, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a great use case. I appreciate you sharing that. And,
Yeah.
one always biased to dogs, but, and it sounds too like you mentioned previously, FormAssembly has really evolved in order to stay relevant and, an impact in the space. So talk to me a little bit about kind of that evolution and how the company's continued to grow over the years.
Sure. So our mission has always been to help companies be good stewards of the data that's entrusted to them. And, personally, you want to work for a company that has a mission you can get behind. And I love that. And it was true in 2006 when we were founded, and it's still true today. That is our mission. And we've evolved with our customers. So we started with a free, simple form builder. And then we made that more advanced over time. And as requirements have become more advanced, as users have become more sophisticated, so too have our plans and programs. We still have some low-cost plans for individuals and small businesses, but now we have plans that have all that security and privacy and workflow that larger organizations need. And we're not stopping. We're keeping pace. We recently started to introduce some AI capabilities into our products, so we're starting to leverage AI for things like if you want to create a drop-down list and you say, let's say you're a pharmaceutical company and you're creating some type of form for allergies, and you say, you can just ask AI, what are the top 10 allergies in children under 5 years old? And that will populate the list for you. So you don't have to go do that research anymore. It's little things to make it more efficient, right? And as AI becomes more standardized and more secure, we will continue to evolve in that space. We also introduced a thing called file scan, right? If you think about if you've ever purchased a home, right? When you fill out all those mortgage applications, you have to attach all kinds of things, right? So you're a mortgage company and people are attaching files and you're uploading them into your organization. Well, with file scan, you can scan that file and make sure there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing malicious about that file before you bring it into your environment. So those are just a couple of the ways that we're continuing to evolve as the threat landscape, as technology, as our customers evolve, we're evolving with them.
I love all of the examples that you're giving on how many different ways people can use, FormAssembly, the integrations. I think that's fantastic. And, certainly staying relevant, working on, evolving with your clients, as they continue to grow. The AI, again, that's a great feature that I'm sure your clients are, super excited to have. So, I'm curious to pick your brain. Is there any advice that you have to give to your clients on how they may better work with FormAssembly? Or are there any tips and tricks that you've kind of seen people use that you're like, oh, wow, so other people should try this?
The best tip that I can give is take full advantage of our customer success team, because we have an outstanding customer success team and everybody gets customer support, whether you buy our simplest plan or our most advanced plan. Everybody gets customer support. They're an award-winning organization and they bring it every day. And I've heard more and more stories about either our customer success team being the deciding factor because companies want that support, or in why maybe they left a competitor and came over to FormAssembly. One of my favorite stories is we had a small business and they were shopping around and they were going to pay a consultant $7,000 to build one form for them. Now, not only does that sound like a lot of money, but if you think about it, anytime they needed to update that form or change that form, they were going to have to go back and pay all over again. So we connected them with our customer success team and showed them how easy our product was to use and how much help and support they got. And for less than it would cost them to build one form, they came onto a FormAssembly annual plan. They started using our form builder, and now they're using things like that that pre-fill that I mentioned with Salesforce. They're using advanced features like that because they have the support and they have the ease of use, and they're getting so much more for their money.
I think that's great. That's fantastic. So, Terri, you shared just a wealth of knowledge, kind of collect, connect, protect. I think that's fascinating. All of the use cases, that's great. So, as we start to wrap up this call, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, whether it be about, FormAssembly, any advice, anything in general that we didn't necessarily hit on that you want to make sure that we cover?
Sure, and thanks for that opportunity. It's really about, I used to have this boss that always said, you have to start with one, right? If we had big ideas and we wanted to do 10 things, he'd be like, that's great, let's do one, right? So, build that first form, right? If you're doing things with paper, you're spending a lot more time. You have errors, you have risks, you have, humans make mistakes, right? The more automated you can make things, the more foolproof they're going to be, the more time you can save yourself. So, whether it's FormAssembly or something else, start with one, right? Every company has a free trial. We have a free trial. Download the product, get started, play around with it, and just start to get an understanding of what it can do for your organization. Because one of the questions you asked me is sort of what are the misconceptions about your industry or your business, and I had to think about it for a while, and then I thought maybe people think this isn't fun, right? Or forms are boring, but they're not, because it can help you in so many ways, and we help companies in so many ways. And just seeing those little baby steps and the difference one form can make it's really rewarding. So I guess it's just start somewhere is my advice.
I love that. That's great. Well, Terri, I think this has been a terrific conversation. I appreciate all of your insights, all of the different kind of topics that we talked about. I think this was a really great episode, and I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.